right, welcome back to a new episode of the Glue Guys. I think we're on episode 9 now, my favorite number. So yeah, we've made it.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that because that's why I dressed up today, because it's episode 9, which is your favorite number.
Yeah.
Do you remember how it became your favorite number? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It's such an interesting, weird story. But when I was a kid, I'll tell it real quick.
Okay.
There was
all
a
right.
movie called The Mighty Ducks.
Yes.
And I was a big fan of, I think it was called The Mighty Ducks. Yeah. And I was a big fan of them. And in one of the movies, there was a cameo from a real life hockey player whose name was Paul Correa.
Paul Correa, yes.
Of the real life Mighty Ducks.
Yep.
And I believe you took me to a game.
Yes, I did.
And I was a huge fan for some reason, had the video game and everything. I don't think I've watched a hockey game in the last 20 years. But for some reason, I kept the number 9 as my favorite. Part of the reason I took 33, because 3 times 3, I believe, is 9.
Yes. That KU education.
Fantastic education. Fantastic. But yeah, no, that is the reason behind the number 9. And it's a very interesting one. But here we are on episode number 9.
I know. It's special. See?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I just threw on the sweatshirt.
That's right. Well, it's a different color sweatshirt. So you're like,
yeah, mix it up.
I'll mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. It's special for number 9.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, today we have Coach Townsend on.
Yeah.
And we got some games to recap. There's been 2 games since our last episode. 2 kind of different games. One
gone different ways, yes.
One that was not so great in the Kentucky game, and then the Iowa State game that was, a big bounce back and everything. I want to start with the Kentucky game and ask you a question. After a game like that, which was terrible, to say the least. One of the biggest deficits, I believe, at home. It was almost from start to finish just a mess. There wasn't any huge runs other than, I think, like a 7-0 run in the second half, which is just enough to start getting the crowd in, but not enough to like push it past that. Yeah. But after a game like that, as a coach, what are you doing with the tape? Are you sitting there like, hey guys, we got to watch this and learn from it and go over, minute by minute, few hour long session? Or are you saying that is no longer anything we need to worry about? Let's move on to conference play and forget that ever happened.
Yeah, so I think that if it were me, I think one of the things that I would do is I would do a hybrid of what you just talked about. Like, I'm not going to completely just disregard at all what happened. Because we do need to play that caliber of team if we're going to win a national championship. So we do need to at least address some of the big glaring mistakes that maybe were there. And there were a lot of some big mistakes. But I'm not going to harp on it, right? I'm not going to make this like, oh, we're the worst team ever. You guys are the worst players ever. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make this into an indictment that we just suck now. So I think that what you can do is you can take a look at it. You can try and learn from some of it, but you do, and that's what's the beauty of it. I know many times when you're playing, it's like you take an L, you want to get back on the court as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah, you can. Tuesday.
And then that's the beautiful part about this. It's like immediately they're back on the court again, and you're able to wash that taste out of your mouth. So I think it's a little bit of both, a little bit of reflecting on that game. But now we have to turn our attention to the rest of the league.
And I think you're spot on with that. Actually, that was something that Coach Self, did quite a few times during, my time there. We'll watch the film. There's stuff that you need to watch. I believe that there was only maybe 1 or 2 times where we did it, and I think one of them was that first Kentucky game.
Yes, I remember that one.
But I think that it is nice that you do have the privilege when playing at Kansas to immediately turn around, play another top 20 team, and then get to come home and play, I believe, top 5 team or top 10 in Baylor. And so it does kind of give you that ability to move on from that, learn from it, but, move on to the next game. And that next game was a tough one because they were without Ochai because of COVID. And go into Iowa State, which you've been to a game there, I believe.
I
You know
did.
what Hilton is like. That place is
Yes.
loud. Those fans are very passionate when Kansas comes to town. It's fun as a player,
Yeah.
but they get the job done. And one thing that they said on the broadcast, which I actually completely agree with, is that this is why you go to Kansas, and that's
Yes.
what Kansas does. And he said when you see Kansas out there in the blue uniforms, you just know they're about business, and I felt that because there is something to that. When you go to a school like Kansas, you have to be able to come off of a loss like that and go into environment like Iowa State without your best player and still find a way to win. That's how we won so many straight Big 12 championships.
Yeah.
And, that's something that's instilled in that program. And I really thought that, the other night was a good example of that.
Yeah, I think that's a tribute to those players. It's also a tribute to those coaches, because I think they were able to really get them to understand that let's not allow this loss to create another loss, right? We're not going to really worry too much about this, especially because it was a non-conference loss against a really good team. Let's not bury our heads into the ground and not focus on an opponent like an Iowa State, a ranked opponent like an Iowa State. But I got to tell you one thing about Iowa State. And yes, I was there watching you play one game, and Iowa State reminds me a lot. Iowa State fan, they remind me a lot of Washington Husky fan. And the reason why I believe that is, I'm an Oregon Duck myself, and Washington Husky fan. Every time I went to go watch a game up there, which you have been to many games up there in football in particular, basketball too, but football is what I'm talking about. And you go up there, and they know they're going to beat you. Husky fan knows you're going to lose at their house, and then they always get beat. And it kind of feels the same way, because when I was there, I mean, those Iowa State fans, they just knew that you guys were going to lose in the game that I watched when I was there. And of course, you guys took care of business, and you walk out, and they just always seem befuddled. Like they just can't.
Yeah.
What happened? Like we were going to win.
What was magic?
Yeah, the hell, we got this. And then oh yeah, okay, yeah, they're a really good team. Okay, yeah. So anyway, that place is a tough place to play for sure. I felt like they were, because of not having Ochai, you have to be laser focused. You have to limit your mistakes. They threw some balls. They threw some balls away that were just so boneheaded things. But they all have to huddle together. And sometimes when you do lose a player who's your top player like that, it rallies the guys, right? And you kind of get together and you go, listen, we got to do something, or we're going to lose this game.
Yeah, and I think Coach Self is somebody who's very good at instilling that confidence into those younger guys, and those guys that, are going to get that opportunity in a big game like that. And I'm sure, a guy that stands out, I believe you say his name, Yusuf. It's another tough one, like Ochai. Yeah. But he came in and he balled out. He played hard. He did the little things. And in a tough environment, after not playing a ton throughout the season, to come out and provide minutes like that, I think that's a lot, credited to him, but also to the coaching staff for getting them prepared. I know that it's difficult, especially when you got guys. I've talked about practice so much. You got the blue team, the red team. It is very hard to go from consistently being on the scout team or the red team to then getting major minutes, because there are a lot of small details in how you cut, where the ball is going, and stuff that is lost between the two. That connection isn't there. And I think you saw that a few times, but to still figure it out and come out with a win is a lot of credit to the coaching staff, to the young guys. And I think that is just what Kansas does to win the Big 12. And they're doing a good job being on pace to do that again this year. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're spot on about the fact that there were some missteps for sure. I mean, I don't know if I've seen so many balls just fly into the stands for unforced errors like that,
Oh, yeah.
but I will say that you know the one thing that I was really encouraged by was that defensively it looked like they were really flying around really well, and they were really helping each other really well, and they just made every shot for Iowa State a tough one.
Yeah.
And so when you've got that, and then we've gone so far, and we haven't talked about the bigs yet, but
I know, right? That's
but
surprising, huh?
I know, but no one, Big Dave was back there to clean up some stuff, and we talked about that, having that person back there to be that rim protector and all that stuff. I mean, it's always nice to have that.
Mhm.
And so they were flying around and trapping and doing what they needed to do, and I think that again there was some of the unforced stuff, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, they kind of limited the big mistakes, and on top of that, it felt like they were always, even though there were some runs and stuff, it felt like Kansas was pretty much in control of that game
Mhm.
for the game, right? It always felt like Iowa State was the one that was constantly trying to figure out what do we do. And even though they cut it to a little bit, it still did not feel like the game was in jeopardy of a loss for Kansas.
Mhm. Well, I got a question for you about the Big 12.
Okay.
Coming off of that Big 12 SEC, challenge, Big
Yeah.
12 didn't look too good. Baylor goes into Alabama, takes the loss. Kansas took the loss. There were some other big name teams that in the Big 12 that took losses. How much weight do you put into that? Because Big 12 was put on this, pedestal as being the conference in college basketball this season. After seeing those games and seeing a huge discrepancy in athleticism in some of them as well, especially the Kentucky game. What are your thoughts on the Big 12 now? Was that just kind of a fluke day and weekend, or do you think that there's some merit to it, and the Big 12 may not be as good as it's hyped up to be?
So what was the final score as far as wins and losses? Do you know that?
I believe that it was like 5-2 when I last checked in, and Texas won. So I mean, it was probably close. I think they got us by a couple games. If I had to guess, like 6-4 or something like that.
Something like that. And do you
Yeah.
remember during your time, was it always one-sided, Big 12?
I don't remember if it was always one-sided. I think that we took care of business sometimes, but I mean, I remember sometimes where the Big 12 would go into a situation like that and not perform very well.
Yeah.
But the few years that the Big 12 was like really good, my last couple years, I think that we handled business pretty well.
Pretty well. So the way I look at it is that I wouldn't put too much weight into it. It is just one game on the schedule, and so what happens is there's a certain style of play that the Big 12 plays, right, and is used to. There's a certain style that the coaches are used to. I mean, Self has played against Bob Huggins a million times and knows kind of what Huggins is going to do and how his teams are going to perform. And I think that it's, I don't think you dismiss it like it's totally, nothing to worry about, but I don't think I would put too much weight on it. I feel like it's something that, when it's all said and done and the announcement happens of the NCAA tournament, I think you're still going to have a bunch of Big 12 teams in it. And I think those Big 12 teams are still going to perform pretty well. So, to me, it's kind of, if I had to, teeter back and forth between the, total panic and total, like, who cares? It doesn't matter. And if you're right in the middle is a little bit of both, I would probably teeter a little bit more toward it's I wouldn't panic much at all because these are still really good teams. I don't think you can say there's an overrating of it, and you have to also remember is that because these teams like an Alabama plays against a Baylor, that's their season for the most part. I mean, having a highly, highly ranked team, a team that's won a national championship.
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
My bad.
That's all right. Go ahead. So a team that has, you could just continue. And
no, I'm just saying that a team like Alabama, who played a Baylor, who's won a national championship. That's they circle that.
Mm-hmm.
When it came out, the schedules came out, they circled that
Mm-hmm.
on that. And so again, I wouldn't put too much merit into this, but something to be concerned about, but not panic.
Yeah. Well, let's lead into our sub in or sub out, because this kind of has to do with the Big 12.
Right.
The sub in or sub out for today is conference championships don't matter. National championships do.
You want to go first? I feel like I always go first.
I'll go ahead and go first on this one.
Okay.
And I am going to let me think for a second. I believe
or
that.
Do you want me to go?
I would, and I'll go. I'll sub in or sub out that they don't matter. I believe that they do matter.
Okay.
I think that the national championship it becomes kind of like a crapshoot when it comes to the tournament. There are a lot of landmines you got to walk through to get to the national championship. That's what you're striving for. And that's, I believe, more important. But I wouldn't say that conference championships don't matter, because that's a big indication of a season-long, all those games in league being worth something. It shows how your season's gone. I think that, a team like I was on in 2016, 2017, those teams are really damn good teams that did a lot. Unfortunately, Elite Eight got us both times, but those are good seasons. We had really good seasons. I do think that the national championship at a place like Kansas is more important, but I'm going to sub out on the fact that conference championships don't matter, because I believe they mean quite a bit. And it's nice to have some bragging rights too amongst your rivals in conference as well.
So you're completely wrong. And so Here's what I mean by that, is that you just said, talking about bragging rights.
Yeah.
What's better bragging rights than saying I have a national championship? Like, I'm the best team in the entire country. Everybody else is done playing and finished their year with an L, and we finished it with a W, and we're the only ones to say that. So here's my kind of retort, in the sense that, we just saw it in college football. Do you think Georgia football would have rather won their conference championship game against Alabama?
No.
And they took the L?
I didn't say that I wouldn't rather win a national championship. That's more important. I said that the conference one matters. But yes, I see where you're going with it.
So it's, yes, but all I'm saying is that, yes, I would gladly come in second place in any conference and win championships. And that's really what it's about. And I think that, it's an interesting question, simply because, during your time there was a different level of pressure on you players to continue that streak. And I remember it, it made it so that every game mattered so much. I mean,
if we started to lose grasp on that Big 12, it was like, oh my God.
It was a huge. You
didn't want to be that team to lose it.
You did not. And you said that many times. We don't want to be the team to lose it. And so if you drop a road game against a TCU or something, you're like, dang, that's one that we should have had in the W column, because now we still got West Virginia on the road. We still got, Texas on the road. And so it meant a ton. And don't get me wrong, again, so I guess we're kind of saying the same thing, because, it's always better to win and do both, of course. But if you have to a choice, and the fact that, I having a conference championship is great. I just think that, to me, in the end, whether I finish second or third in the conference, I kind of don't care that much.
Yeah.
Again, separate from the streak. That streak was something that made something different.
But now, I would agree.
Put me at third and let me win a Final Four, and I'm happier than winning a championship and going out in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point that we did have a ton more on the line when there was that streak to set the record and stuff than there is, just any given year. And national championships are huge. I mean, the everything. If those last two teams make Final Fours that I was on, or win the championships, there's a complete difference in everyone's career paths, everything. I mean, that's a huge thing to be able to say, hey, I am a national champion. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. And, I think that we're kind of on the same page, but I do see your point of, your perspective as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and bring on Coach Townsend and ask him a few questions.
What's up there, Lando?
Coach T, what's up? How you doing?
What you doing, man?
Man, I'm chilling. I'm out in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, playing some golf, some poker,
Looking
doing this little podcast with this great co-host.
What's up, Richard?
How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm good, man. You're still looking young as ever, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you got any scholarships ready, I'm still ready to come out of retirement.
You got eligibility?
Yeah, I'm still trying. You got players that have been on the team since 1947. So it feels like there should be some eligibility somewhere we could find, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, how you doing? How's everything after the big win yesterday? I know that probably felt good to go to Iowa State and bounce back a little bit after Kentucky.
Yeah, that Kentucky, we got smacked around a little bit, Landon. So you know how it is around here after those games. So yeah. I would say Coach was probably a little intense in those days leading up to the Iowa State game. So he wasn't exactly what's Ted Lasko. He wasn't exactly being like that those last couple of days before the practice, but it was good. And playing without Oach and letting those other guys that haven't had a chance step up and play, I think, as it'll help us in the long run.
We talked about it a little bit before you came on, what to do with the film after a bad game like that. What did you guys do? Did you guys go ahead and watch that a bunch, or was it something that, Coach Supp is like, all right, we got to move on from this and think about Iowa State?
Well, you were here for a while, and you were great when you were here. So you've seen him do a little of both. You've seen him take it and kind of let everybody know how bad they did. This was one that he wanted to get us back and ready to get back in the conference play and stay on top of the conference. So he talked about it, but he said, hey, we're not going to watch it. We're throwing it and you've been at, when you were here where we did games like that. So that's what he did with that one. He said, hey, we didn't play good, but I was disappointed you guys didn't compete. But we're going to let that one go. And so Coach Rob did a great job with the Iowa State scout. As when you were here, he always does. And so we kind of just prepared and watched tape. He prepared for that game, and our guys were ready. Coach Rob had the guys really prepared for the game.
Coach, playing in Iowa State's always tough. I mean, that place is that Hilton Magic that they call it. Is always difficult, but you were down, your top player. Did you going into it, did coach or any of the assistants really focus on that and say, try to tell them, hey, you need to not worry about him not being there? Or was it just more like we put the players out there and we just know that they're going to step up because it's next man up?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Landon, being here, he's heard a lot of coaches' speeches over the years, but his coach's kind of speech before the game was, hey, we recruited you guys here to play, so you're good enough to play. So just because we had a guy down, but what he really said is, guys, what we need to do is play through David McCormick, and we actually did, and I think David delivered. I think he had 14 and 14. And so that's what we tried to do. And then Landon will know this. Coach goes in, and the day of shoot around, he says, guys, it's going to be packed in here. And it was. The students were full all the way up to the rafters on both sides for warm-ups and, yelling, not the nicest things in the world. But they were ready to go. But Coach always says, Landon, you'll remember this. He'll say, but there's 14,000 people just hoping they got a chance to beat us, but knowing deep down in the core, there's doubt that it's Kansas, and doesn't matter who's playing, that Kansas name on the front, those people don't beat us much. And so there's a little bit of doubt. And he said you could put that away. So that's kind of his talk. And Landon will probably remember a lot of those talks on the road.
Yeah, for sure. And I brought it up before you came on that, that's why you go to Kansas, is to play, in environments like that, in situations like that, to know that you got to take care of business. You put on those away uniforms, going to a hostile crowd, you still got to take care of business. So it was nice to see that, Coach Self has just continued that throughout his whole time there. You guys as a coaching staff have done such a good job with new guys coming in, getting them to understand that this is what we do. We go in and handle business, and other teams just know that that's the case, when Kansas walks in. So it's fun to watch, and I've enjoyed watching this season and following along. My last question to you about the last few games is, how would you approach, if you were to see a Kentucky again in the tournament, or, one of those SEC teams, or another big name team out of the conference, what changes are you making from the last Kentucky game to this next one, that would stand out to you in between those two games?
Well, Landon, and the Kentucky game was my scouts, so obviously I didn't have them ready enough. But I thought they shot the ball incredibly well. And, the kid, Keon Brooks, who averaged 10 points a game, had a career game, and we didn't guard him well enough. Maybe I told Coach, looking back, maybe, when we knew he had the hot hand, maybe we should have put KJ Adams in there to guard him, because he's kind of our best defender, and maybe could have slowed him down a little bit. But they had the shooter, and, we know he can shoot, and he made 4 threes. I didn't think we did a good job of chasing him off those baseline screens that they run him off. So there's some things I could do that we definitely could do better. I thought we did a good job on their guards, although I thought Wheeler controlled the game from start to finish. And, it would have been a little bit different if we'd have had a healthy Remy, I think. Just a guy that has some speed and stuff like that. But we didn't, and Juan did a good job. He just had to play so many minutes. So, but I watched, like you said, I've watched Auburn play, and they're really, really good. There's a reason they're number 1 in the country. And those teams have a lot more quickness, a lot more athleticism than we do. We're not as athletic as some of the teams you played on when you were here. So I think we'd have to change up how we guard some stuff, and do a little bit better job with that. Although I thought Kentucky played great, and give them all the credit, but they shot the ball, really, really well. And we didn't do a good enough job keeping Oscar off the glass. Like, when we had you here, we didn't ever have to worry about doubling the post. I don't know if you know that, but we loved it. We was like landing guard him one-on-one in the post, and you could keep him off the glass. And we didn't have that. And Oscar, he's a monster. He's the best rebounder in the country. So, rotation, rebounding, stuff like that. There's a lot of areas we could have done better. So I think that's how we'd prepare for them next time. And, those are the kind of teams, like you said, we're going to face in the postseason.
So postseason's not too far away, but you still have some pretty significant games in the Big 12 before then. So up next, top 10 Baylor comes to town. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, you feel like, your team's going to be ready to rock and roll this Saturday? And what are the keys to getting a W?
Well, I hope we will be. Richard, you coached a long time. So, with the crazy thing is I'll go out and coach goes, hey, how'd they look in warmups? And sometimes in warmups I'll go, God, they're fired up. They're ready to go. And we lay an egg. And then, sometimes I go, God, they're not even into it. And they play fantastic. So I can't figure kids out, but you were in coaching for a long time. So you know how it is. But I think they'll be fired up because, we only got a 1-game lead on them in the league, and it would go a long way to giving us a little bit of a cushion. We do Landen knows we take it one game at a time, but their guards are terrific. Now they've had some injuries, and their guys haven't, they've been without guys here and there. But Akinjo, the transfer from Arizona, is really good. They got the best 3-point percentage shooter in the league in Cryer, who sat out last game. I think we match up good with them on the front line. But Meyer's playing a lot better. He doesn't take as many wild shots, and they got a freak athlete in Kendall Brown. So they got a lot of pieces, and they're really good defensively. Scott and his staff done an unbelievable job on the defensive end. So we got to find ways. It's not going to be easy for us to score, but I'd like to see if we could get out in transition and score some buckets before their defense sets up, and then we got to try to contain those guards and guard the 3-point line, and then they got to cup. Their big guys are not great scorers, but they're really good on the glass, and they're good defensively at helping and plugging holes. So it'll be a good matchup, and like you were just like Landon alluded to earlier, those are the kind of teams we're going to play in the NCAA tournament. So it'll be a good test for us, and it's a big weekend. I think these next 2 games will go a long way for, how the league race will go with playing at home and then going to Texas 2 days later.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. We were trying to get out there for this weekend, but our schedule didn't allow it. So we're going to try to get out there maybe for senior night, but it'll be a fun one this weekend.
You're too busy, man. There might be a poker game going on. You got to make some money.
Right.
How's mom doing, man? She good?
She's doing great. Yeah, the whole family's doing well. I got a little one now that just turned 1 the other week.
Saw the pictures, man. Unbelievable. And congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
Your dad will tell you that's your most important job your whole life is to be a father. And I know you'll do great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great being able to spend time with him and stuff has been awesome. I got a question for you as far as coaching, at KU. You've been an assistant coach for a while now, and I always see when they release those, top assistant coaches and stuff, your name's at the top of the list. I'm sure you've gotten, opportunities to take head coaching jobs and stuff. What's it like being a coach, at a place like Kansas, and what's keeping you from even wanting to go down any path of exploring head coaching and stuff like that?
Well, your dad will appreciate this. The last one I think I really had a great shot at was San Jose State. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my wife about it, and that's my hometown, and your dad's been there, so he knows. Yep. And I weighed, Richard, you could kind of relate to this. I weighed, was it better being the head coach there or being an assistant coach here? Actually, the money was pretty close to the same, so it wasn't about money, although it's way more expensive to live there, so the money goes a little farther here. But, being there as the head coach or being an assistant here, I'm really competitive, Len, as you know, and winning, keeps everybody happy. I don't think I'd be a lot of fun to be around if my team was like 8 and 24. And so my wife
I can only imagine practices.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sarcastic. Everybody would hate me. The players would probably hate me. So Coach Self has treated me well, and I got to the age, Richard, as you know, they start talking about my age now. God, is he too old? How long will he be coaching? How long will he be here? So if I could have did it, I probably would have, did it when I was in my 40s as opposed to my 60s. And like I said, I love it here. My daughter's a cheerleader here. So it's been good for me. It's a great place to raise a family, and got to coach guys like you from all over, West Coast, whatever, they come through here. I love it here, and it would be hard to go. And we got some younger guys on the staff now with Coach Case, who's great, and Brady Morningstar, who's funny, keeps everything light around here. And Brennan's been here for a long time. So I like it, and Coach Self's taking care of me. So that's kind of my thing. And, if there was a good job in a Power 5, I may would do it. But to take a lower one that I'd have to rebuild, that'd be hard for me, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, Coach. Yeah, my time at San Jose State was rough.
I was at a few
was
practices
rough.
there where I had to leave the gym.
So you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what my wife was talking about.
Yes, it's a rough deal. I mean, the weather's great.
Oh, the weather's
that's
great.
That's a tough gig for sure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to chat a little bit about recruiting. Okay, and so you literally are the first person that I spoke to on the staff in regards to Landen. Originally, we have a mutual friend, Coach Levy, who kind of facilitated that. And so, I want to first say I appreciate how you and the staff and Coach all handled the recruiting process. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You guys were always upfront. You were always honest. I know that at the time, Caleb Tershewski was the guy.
Yeah.
He thought it was, and then next thing you know, you guys thought he had him, and he goes to Arizona, and then we, the relationship with Landon then took from there. And so, but it was always, you guys were always honest, and that's the part that I always appreciated. And so the recruiting piece, my question to you is that recruiting is rough, but how does this NIL impact you? Is it changing the recruiting landscape now, or is it still we're Kansas across the chest, so it doesn't matter about the NIL if somebody can offer this or that, we don't care? Is it what's it like now?
Well, you know what? That's a great question, Richard. And I don't think there's been enough time to see, being this was the first year, our guys have made some money, and Landon probably could have made a lot of money when he was here just because people liked him so much. And he's a, good looking kid, and was so personable, and everybody liked him. So I haven't seen what it's going to be like now. When I look on social media and guys are saying, oh, they're going to get $500,000 a year I don't see it being like that. But I do think these kids could all make, 100,000, 150, 200, and maybe it'll get to be more. But there's only so much money to go around. And I think, if your boosters and your donors are giving it to NIL, well, then it's taken away from them, donating to the athletic department. And so it's kind of I would know that answer better, I'd say, after maybe 2 or 3 years when I see how it is. Because, Mitch, 1-800 got junk, he gets something, but that's not real money. You know what I mean? And there's guys that are, they get to use a car or whatever, and they tweet out stuff, but I don't know how it works good enough. And the NCAA really hasn't put out a lot of legislation on, what's legal. I know we're not allowed to have anything at all to do with it. Like to go solicit stuff for the kids, because then it becomes pay for play. So it's kind of a hard thing right now. And I think everybody's just trying to figure out the landscape, but that's a great question. And, in recruiting, everybody's going to ask you, hey, when am I going to get for NIL? Which, I'd rather have the kids that say, hey, let me go in and work on my craft and take care of business. And then all that NIL stuff comes. But I think it's a lot like the NBA. Not everybody gets these deals. I mean, LeBron and guys like that, and they're getting the Steph Curry, they're getting the lion's share of the, endorsements and stuff. That's who you see on the TV and the stuff more. So I think it'll be like that with colleges. But, then I see what Texas football is doing with their, every lineman that comes there is going to get X amount because they got this thing. So I think it's, there's avenues, and I'm glad it's happening because I think the kids deserve it. I think they deserve to make money. Everybody else is making money off them. So I'm glad it's happened, but I can't really answer that because I don't know what it's gonna be like, and there hadn't been enough data yet on our guys. But like I said, they are getting money in their, put in their pocket through these deals, which is a good thing.
Last thing, and then I'll let you go. A lot of the listeners and fans out there like to hear story time. Do you have anything that maybe might not be known to the general fans of a story that you can remember from your time at Kansas that stuck out to you or that you like to tell people?
Yeah, I got a lot of them. Probably.
Well, the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
I'm sure you got a ton.
Let me think. I think, as you know, Landon, when you were here, we like to play pranks on the guys sometimes. And Ben McLemore, when he was here, and he'll remember this, I called him in and I go, "Hey, Ben, I got a call. You were underage drinking in the bar." And, Ben was a nice kid out of St. Louis. And he's going, "Well, what are you talking about?" And I go, "Well, this girl named Amy called and da-da-da." It was me and Dooley both had him on. And so he's coming in here, he's going, "I don't know an Amy," and he just kept on. And we kept telling him. And to this day, him and Jamari will remember the story because Ben got really upset, like, denying, "Hey, I was not drinking." And you remember Coach used to go, "Hey, if you're underage drinking, you're going to do." So we did it. And Ben, to this day, he walked out of my office so mad going, "I'm telling you, I don't know an Amy." And we're going, "No, this girl named Amy called and I don't know her." Because we were saying, "Well, who's the girl you're with?" And then he ended up telling on himself. "No, I was with this girl named so-and-so." And we were going, "Well, who's Amy?" And he's going, "I'm telling you, I don't know an Amy." And it was funny. Him and Jamari, to this day, Ben called the other day because he wanted to come to the Kentucky game. And he even brought the story up that, he goes, "Is Amy around?" I said, "Well, do you need two? Who's the other one for?" Amy, and so it's been something that we've joked about. And, we used to always try to do stuff to you guys, but, you guys used to do it to us too. So
it was always fun. That environment was always good. You guys kept the energy good in there. It was always funny. The exchanges between you, I'll always remember the exchanges between like you and Christian or some random guy.
He came back to the game in Kentucky. Yeah,
I know he was there. I texted him. I said, "This is your fault right now," because him and Jay West said that they were going.
Yeah, I told him he can't come to another game again. So unless he brought his girlfriend, because I saw a picture of her. She looked pretty hot. So, but hey, Landon, I will say this with your dad, because your dad was a coach. Your dad told me, he said, "Coach, I'm telling you what you're getting with my son. You're getting a high IQ, knows how to play, not the greatest athlete, but a competitor." And your dad was exactly right on everything he said. Now, he didn't tell me during boot camp you would start at the free throw line and then not even stop about the other free throw line and get back.
Oh, man, I would be at half court before they would even start running.
Before Coach would even say go. Hey, and you were all the way on the end, not on the court, so we couldn't really see the lines. And Coach said, "Hey, Coach, just raise your hand if anybody don't touch the line." And I wanted to raise my hand, but you were a West Coast kid.
You remember the time that Jarence did?
Yeah, and I raised his hand. Everybody.
It was Jarence's first time, and he was in there. His first year, he wanted to be the one to raise it, and I had already kind of got in a little thing, and the next thing you know, there he was raising his hand. I think I snapped on him. I'm like, "Really? You're gonna come in here and start calling me out?"
Yeah. It's funny, Land. Those are the things I'll always remember. I'll take away because I remember those times. And Jeff Forbes trying to raise his hand and tell on somebody.
Oh my God!
Everybody started cussing him out. I said, "Jeff, I'm gonna walk you home because you might get beat up today."
Oh man, well, it's great having you on and talking with you, and hopefully we'll get out there for a game sometime and get to chat with you some more in person.
Well, let us know, man. We'd love to have you guys. Always good to catch up with you guys. Love you and miss you, Landon, and congrats on the baby. I know you'd be a great dad.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Coach. Have a good one.
Okay,
take care, Coach.
See you guys.
Man, it's good catching up with him and the other coaches. That That boot camp story, man. I used to cheat boot camp so many times. I would always, they would, because we would run in groups, so that other group would be finishing, and then I would go off to the side where there was no lines, so it was hard to tell exactly where we were at.
Yeah.
And I would start, like, as soon as that group was finishing, I would start kind of creeping up, and then as soon as they would, blow the whistle for us, I'd already be up there. And the sad thing is, I would still lose the race.
Hey, he did mention high IQ. That's a high IQ deal.
Hey, I
come
found
on.
a little way, and then Jaron said, he brought up Forbes. Forbes was our video coordinator at the time. It was him and Jaron, and they were the new. Jaron was the new guy trying to, show that he could stick up and stuff, and he was raising his hand. I remember I snapped on him once because I was tired. When fatigue kicks in, the emotions run a little higher and stuff, and I was so mad at him. Like, you really had to say something? Like, Coach Self sees it. I know he sees it. He sees me. I'm at half court, but he's just like, whatever. He's getting the job done, whatever. And Jaron's had to come in and be the hero. But yeah, no, it's great. Coach Townsend was always funny, and that's the one thing I'll say about that staff is, as there'll be high pressure games at all times at Kansas, but they did such a good job at relieving some of that by having a good time, playing pranks on each other and stuff. And that's what I appreciate. I know other players did as well.
Yeah. Well, it was great to catch up with them as well. And it's, having that insight on what not only coach is thinking, but the players are thinking, and right in this huge stretch of games is it was fun to catch up and to hear. And I've always respected Coach T. Like I had mentioned, he was the first person I spoke to about you. I don't think I mentioned that you were not athletic, but
I'm aware that there's some. I'm not quite as athletic as some of the others.
Yes, to me that there's a difference. The way I always categorize it is that there are hyper athletic.
Yeah, I'm not unathletic.
Right, so but you're not unathletic.
I have some pictures of me dunking on some people,
Exactly.
So
there's a difference. There's hyper athletic and then there's athletic. So I never said you were not athletic, but I remember having those conversations with him just as a player, because one of the things that is sometimes challenging for coaches, especially coaches at that level, is to have the patience to realize what they have in you. And they needed to kind of see that you do these little things, because, we talked about it a couple of episodes ago with, the ceiling that you did. These were little things that you don't really just teach that really. It's just innate in you. And that's not something that is on that unless you're paying attention. You don't see that in any film or anything like that. And so it just takes some time. So anyway, the little things that he says, I love hearing it. I know it. I watched every game. It's always nice to hear, well, we don't need to double team the post. Well, because Lando has it. And so.
No, it's nice to hear from them. And they were always great at appreciating those things. I remember so many times one of the coaches, Coach Townsend, Coach Self, when we would be watching film, there's those small things that happen. One of the things that I like to do a ton when Frank was driving was just screen the guy who's fading to the corners, man, for a wide open three. Just small things like that they would realize in big situations and games made an impact, and they would point it out to the team. And I appreciate that, and I think that that's part of the reason why the team, felt that confidence in going to the coaches about me playing because of that. Because he was pointing it out and they were realizing it. And so, I always loved that. I love those coaches, and I'm excited to get out there, and we got to figure out a time to go see them, see a game and the practice, and get a chance to see everyone in person one time.
I think that senior game, if we can make that happen, I think that'll be a great one. We can go out, we can go see a practice like you mentioned, we can watch, the senior day. I remember being there for yours, and we brought your brothers with us for it, and and all of that. And it just was a special moment, and it's also right before Big 12, and before the NCAA tournament, so we can catch up with the players and coaches at that point.
Well, I think we got two quick things to go over. One is a quick word from our sponsors at Bet Rivers. Do you want to take that? Do you have it memorized by now?
Listen, No, I don't have it
That'd be
memorized.
hilarious if you did. You're like, yeah, by the way, the people
By the
over at
way,
Bet Rivers.
exactly.
Oh,
Hey, if you give me for the right price, I'll memorize it.
Well,
So
anyways,
give me some cash, and I'll memorize it.
Let me bring it up real quick. So we do have this great partnership with Bet Rivers, and let me tell you a little bit about them. If you haven't already heard about them, now's the time to sign up. They're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart is that they only require one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. Make sure to get into action today by going to betrivers.com or downloading the Bet Rivers app. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And then there was one other thing that we wanted to do, and why don't you go ahead and tell the people about what we want them to do? You know, the YouTubers.
Oh, yeah.
So you were watching some other YouTubers, and you said, "Hey, we're not doing something." So I know it's probably the end of the episode where nobody.
We should have done it earlier. Why didn't we?
If you're still, but it's for the people who are still listening at this point
after
the ad read and everything. So go ahead.
If you're still listening at this point, we want to start building up, and you enjoy the content of what we've been doing over 9 episodes. We want to build up our followers on YouTube as well as on Twitter. So if you like what you're seeing and hearing, please drop a comment. If you have a topic you would like us to discuss, let us know, because the nice thing about it, with Landon's time at KU, he has access to a lot of coaches and players, as you've seen over the 9 episodes. So if there is something that you want to see, hear, a topic, a player that you want to, whether it's a former player or a current player, if there's somebody that you would like on the show, drop it into a comment onto the comments and let us know, and we'll do our best to bring it in the future episodes.
Good job. I want you to do that at the beginning of the next episode. That was pretty good.
Yeah, you got to tell me though. I'm the sidekick. The sidekick doesn't make decisions on this stuff.
Anyways, well, good episode. It was nice chatting with you and chatting with Coach Townsend, and we'll be back again next week to recap Baylor, and if there's any other games, the other game as well.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.